The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff or management of Visionary Related Entertainment.
Aloha and welcome to Maui Nonprofit Notes, where each week you will find us talking story with Maui's nonprofit executive directors and their staff to find out how they are working to support those with needs within our community. Maui Nonprofit Notes is generously sponsored by Pacific Source. If you're building or remodeling a home, please stop by Pacific Source's cabinet and appliance showroom located in the Waikapu Base Yard. I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific, and your host for Maui Nonprofit Notes. For those of you who may be listening to this show for the first time, during this hour we share some of the experiences of our nonprofit agencies and just how they're changing lives, changing communities, and creating miracles of hope for those with needs. Today we're going to start off the show talking to Cassandra Abdul, who is the Executive Director of Nahalio Maui. Hi, Cassandra.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Great. Thanks very much for inviting us to join you today.
Oh, my pleasure. So you've been on the job, what, 5 months?
I started as Executive Director February 1st, so much less than 5 months.
Whoa, okay. That's, I was thinking it was the first of the year, but that's, but you kind of had a head start because you've been in the business.
Yes, and I joined Nahale in November as a Deputy Executive Director.
Okay, so, you've got loads of experience then. And I understand you just had your annual meetings and all these good things, and planning for the next year is all set. And one of the first questions I asked you when you came in was if you had any homes available to sell.
And right now we are working on one. As you know, Nahalio Maui buys foreclosed abandoned properties. We renovate them and then we sell them to our qualified homeowners. This is the second one where a homeowner asked us to buy back their interest in the home. And it's an amazing story because they started with Hawaiian Homes. They were able to sell that, and then they went into our property, the Community Land Trust property, and now we've bought that back and they're going into a market rate home.
So things have worked very well for that family.
Absolutely.
They've come a long way.
And they have.
Now, let's talk just a little bit about how this works. Nahalio Maui is a community land trust.
Correct.
And as a land trust, it owns the property and retains ownership of the property and sells just the house.
That's correct. We keep the ground, and it is subject to a 99-year lease exclusively used by the homeowner. No one else can use it.
So while you own the house, you cannot leave and rent it to somebody else.
No, you do have to be an owner-occupant.
Okay.
Yes.
And so in a case where someone wants to sell and move on, like I think you said, this is the second time you've had this now in your, 10 years?
That's correct, 10 years.
The first time I understood it worked out very well for that owner, and this time it also has?
That's correct. The homeowners both ended up with some appreciation, which is based on how long you've owned the home.
Okay.
But we share the appreciation with them. They agree at the very beginning that we will keep the houses affordable in perpetuity. But both homeowners left with more money than they came into the transaction with.
That's always a good thing.
Yes.
That's always a good thing. And I know that's one of the things that kind of maybe people shy away from what you do because they're afraid, okay, we'll live there for 20 years and walk out with nothing. And you mentioned, I think, that it depends on how long you've been there. So the longer you're there, the more appreciation there is? Is that what I should
That's
say?
That's right. Well, there is more appreciation, plus you get to share in a larger percentage of the appreciation.
Okay, so it's a sliding scale.
Yes, it is.
That's great. And so now these folks, how long were they in the house?
They were in not that long, probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so 3 or 4 years. Do you happen to know, just in a general price range, what the price was?
When they
bought it?
It was in the low to mid 200,000 range.
Okay, and now when you go to sell it this next time, you're still in the affordable range, but it has gone up a little bit.
Yes, it has, and we're looking probably in the mid 200 range, 250, 260, someplace in there.
Okay.
Which is almost impossible to find.
Right. That's fabulous. And the size of this house is?
It's a small 3-bedroom,
Okay.
2-bath. Yeah.
Yes.
And we're going to renovate it before we put it back on the market.
Okay. So you had renovated before those people moved in. So it's hopefully not that much to renovate, just updating a few things, painting
Yes.
here and there and so forth.
Correct.
And that didn't affect what the people got back in cash for the sale.
No.
Interesting. That's a big piece.
Well, you basically get back your down payment. You're actually, because you've got to pay off your mortgage, any of your mortgage payments that you've made that go toward your balance, that is included in what you take back with you. If you have made improvements to the property that Nahalio Maui has also agreed to, you get part of that back also.
Wow.
And the only things that we would deduct for is if there were excessive
Wear and tear. Damage.
Yeah, damage, that type of thing.
I got you. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a really honest, fair deal for everybody.
It's worked out very well for the two homeowners who
Right.
have taken advantage of
Now,
it.
over the 10 years, you've sold how many houses? 30 something?
Yes, yeah, over 30, and 2 of those we're going to resell more than once.
Right,
Yes.
right. Okay. And I know in our last project, Nahalio Maui bought 3 houses in that project for their buyers.
That's right.
And I was looking back over some of the statistics, and people I don't think understand that buying a house that's on leased land makes it more affordable to them. The price is
Right.
not the same as your neighbor who paid for the land.
Exactly. So your mortgage doesn't include the cost of the land, first of all. And then when you work with an entity like Nahalio Maui, we actually further subsidize what the cost of the house
Of the house is.
Right. For instance, we mentioned earlier we just sold a house in Waikapu,
Uh-huh.
brand new, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath,
Right.
2 stories, gorgeous house.
That was a spec house that you built.
Yes.
It's kind of a trial run at the houses you're going to be building in Kahoma.
Exactly, exactly. We have an appraisal on the house, which was just under $600,000.
Wow.
We sold it for $360,000 to a family that falls in the 120 to 140% AMI.
Wow. That is unreal. I'm sitting. It's too bad you can't see my head going kind of nuts because
Yes.
I'm figuring
Yes.
our properties, because we're saying ours are going to come in at easy at 550, and we're selling in the mid 300s.
Yes.
And it's just, I mean, it's on one side it's unbelievable. Now our range is 81% to 120. Which is kind of the same,
Yes.
Same range.
Yes, that's correct. And it's set by the funding agency.
right?
Yeah, and the other thing that's really been a help to our homeowners is that Nahalio Maui has created a matching down payment assistance grant,
Oh, that's great.
and that's based on need.
Okay.
So we take a look at what the families have and what the shortfall is for their closing costs. And we can fund up to $10,000.
Wow.
That we create a lien against the property for 15 years. So if you sell it within that time, that grant has to be repaid. But after 15 years, it's forgiven.
It goes away.
That's right.
Wow.
And our
Is-
family said they're not leaving.
Is it a sliding scale over that 15 years on
No,
that?
no.
It's a 15,000 or whatever you.
Yes, but no interest.
No
It's
interest,
just
okay.
the principal amount.
Wow. Boy, that's you're just making the pie sweeter.
Yes. Well, we're trying to help deserving families. And, there's a lot of really deserving families here in Maui County that have good jobs. They've taken care with their credit, so they have good credit. They've started to save, but the cost of housing keeps going up, so the gap between how much they've saved and how much they need to close keeps widening.
Right.
And that's where this comes in.
Right. And of course, the rental increase prices over the
Oh.
last couple of years have taken a big toll on a lot of people's
Yes.
savings.
It has. And our mortgages, our families that have mortgages, are less than what it would cost them to rent.
Right. Right. That's what we're looking at
Yes.
too.
And then because of the way that the appraisals are handled, Our buyers do not have to pay PMI,
Private mortgage insurance,
which
right.
is like a second mortgage almost.
That's one of the first questions most people ask is how long will they have to pay that? And
Yes.
if the appraisal comes in like we think, you're not going to have it.
Correct.
No need.
Yeah.
Because the bank's covered.
That's right, because if the appraisal is almost $600,000 and we're selling at $360,000, that's more than 20%. No PMI.
Right. That's wonderful. Now, when you go in to renovate the houses, you have these are standard contractors that do home work, housework. That didn't come across right. They're not mopping and dusting. They're building houses.
Yes.
And so these are the same contractors you're going to see building homes all over the island.
That's true. We do have a handyman on staff, and so some of the smaller things we have it done internally, but we do use outside vendors, certainly plumbers and electricians, and other people out there that do this for a living. Now, you won't necessarily see the same because these are smaller jobs,
Right.
and the big contractors want to do big renovations or brand new houses.
Right. Understand.
But they're licensed, they're insured,
and
it works.
over these 10 years, again, I'm going back to that. You've been able to acquire houses all over the island. So
Yes.
you've got people in homes up country, in the west side, the south side, central,
Yes.
and they're right next door to the market homes.
That's correct, and you can't see any difference between ours and the market rate, except sometimes our owners even take better care of their yards. And when we sell it to them, we
Right.
make sure that the house is in great shape. We want to make sure it's low maintenance so that our homeowners can stay in there and not have to do a lot of repairs immediately.
Right. Now, have you ever, as an organization, have you ever thought about going out and just buying a piece of land and building a subdivision?
We would love to do something like that, but we would certainly need assistance.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Or someone bequeathing land, some family land or something,
Yes, yeah.
would be a great thing. Take a lot of money for infrastructure and so forth, but I
Yeah.
think you guys could figure that out.
We could, and actually the county gave one house to Nahalio, Maui. We renovated it and sold it, and then we used the sale price for that to help develop the house at 333, that we just finished.
The new one.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that started on a vacant lot.
I see. Yeah, that's interesting. And I mentioned that it was kind of a spec home for Kahomo. Now that's a project over in Lahaina,
Yes.
along the stream bed there that has been stalled for 8 years
Yeah.
because
been a long
of
time.
some people that felt they had some rights to things over there.
That's right. And they didn't sue the developer. They went after the Land Use Commission. So it's been many years going through many levels of the court system. But now it looks like that's finished. And it looks like as soon as the developer gets the bonded final on the subdivision, we're looking at closing shortly after that.
Wow. And that's a combination project of Nahalio Maui, Habitat for Humanity, and the West Maui land. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. That's going to be, there's quite a few homes in that.
Yeah, 68 lots.
Okay.
So Habitat's taking 10, Nahali has 12, and the developer will do the balance.
I see. Interesting. Gary's giving me the high sign. It's time for a break already. We'll be right back with Cassandra and talk more about Nahalio Maui.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
Come be inspired at the CIM Home Expo at the War Memorial Gym Friday and Saturday, June 10th and 11th. Explore what Maui has to offer with over 50 different contractors, architects, and interior designers. Talk to Maui's leading professionals in the construction industry about your upcoming project. Sign up to win a playhouse. The first 1,000 people will win a tote bag. Friday is open from 4 to 9 p.m., Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, call 633-1686.
And we are back. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes, where each week you'll find us talking story with our nonprofit executive directors about what they are up to and how they are helping people. And today we've started off the show talking with Cassandra Abdul about Nahalio Maui. For those of you who are not familiar with Nahalio Maui and may have missed the first part of the show, this is an organization that buys homes that need refurbishing, fixing. They may be foreclosed houses, or they might be have you picked up anything at an auction?
No, we have not.
No. Okay.
Other than on the steps.
Yeah,
of the
on the,
courthouse.
right, the foreclosures,
Foreclosures, yes.
Okay. And brings them back to life and sells them, and they just completed building a brand new home. Coming up on Saturday, June 25th, they've got a home buyer seminar. And if I can just touch on some of the things that they're going to be talking about, they're going to talk about, can a community land trust home ownership work for you? And again, in the first half of the show, we talked about what a great advantage it could be, because it's going to keep the price of the house lower. It's a 99-year lease, not subject to somebody coming in and saying, okay, we're going to sell you the land now. You either buy the land or you got to get out, which I got hit with over on Oahu when Bishop Estate and Kamehameha Schools decided to sell their properties. But it's set, and she's got some great success stories for some people who have bought homes there and then had to turn around and sell them for various reasons, and took some equity out with them. And they're going to talk about the basics of getting the right mortgage for you and your family. Do you work with a certain lender, or can anybody lend on a land trust house?
Generally, the lenders want to take a look at our documents, and that can be time consuming. We have been working with Home Street Bank. They've been really terrific in the amount of houses that they finance for our homeowners. And they've also been very good at supporting Nahale financially also.
Oh, great.
They gave us another $5,000 gift this year, earlier this year, which we use for our down payment assistance program.
Great.
Yeah.
That's good, yeah, because they understand what it's all about. They've
They
read
do.
that. As I recall, the document's about an inch and a half thick or something. It seemed like it went on forever, but
Right. And then we also work with American Savings Bank.
Okay.
We've worked with Guild Mortgage, and I'm not sure who, there may be another, and I apologize if I
that's okay.
forgot.
That's okay. So there are alternatives out
Yes,
there.
there are.
It's not such a scary thing that the banks and the mortgage companies stay away from
Right. Well, some don't want to finance leasehold land.
it. Okay.
So that's kind of a hurdle they have to get over, and that's why they look at our
Right.
documents.
None of the other houses on Maui are on leasehold, are they? Or at least we don't have the large corporate lease
Not like
situations.
Oahu.
Yeah.
Not like Oahu.
Yeah, you're familiar with Oahu too, yeah.
Yes, very much. Well, there you have the larger entities.
Right.
Yeah, that have huge tracts of
Right.
land that they sold leasehold.
Well, I remember when I bought my house over there, it was like, oh, this is great. The lease is $20 a month for like the next 20 years. It was like, oh, this is great, And then 3 years later, I get the letter from Kamehameha Estate saying, Bishop Estate saying, you've got 90 days to buy your lot, or,
Yes.
and it's like, oh no,
Right.
And then what really gets you is that at the point of that 90 days, if you don't buy it because you can't afford to do that, you get hit with this large bill, which sits kind of in the back of this whole thing, in the background until you try to sell. And then the new buyer has to be able to afford to pay for the house and that new, the cost of the land.
Right.
And those were hard numbers.
And the other thing is that when the lease rent steps up on the typical ground lease, it's based on the then current value of the land.
Oh.
So you get hit with the appreciation on the land. And generally speaking, the return that the lessor, the owner of the ground, is looking for is 8% on that appreciated amount.
Oh my gosh.
And this is where our lease is really nice. Right now, our lease is $45 a month. It will reset about every 5 years, and any increase is only based on CPI. It has nothing to do with how much the ground is worth, the land is worth at that point. We don't even look at that.
Interesting.
So it keeps it affordable also.
That's great. Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, I was fortunate enough that I was able to buy mine, and then I turned around and sold it, and then moved over here, and that was the best move I ever made.
And we're glad you did too.
But it was like, wow. I mean, the whole package appreciated
Yes.
so much just through that transaction. But there were a lot of people who really got stuck in it.
Yes.
So I can see why, depending on your past experience with leased land, there could be some scary thoughts about this. But I've not seen anything but good out of what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's not only a 99-year lease, it's renewable at the homeowner's option. And they can deed it to their children.
Oh, they can deed.
Yes.
I was going to say, who's going to live past 90?
Especially if you're 35 when you buy it to
Yeah.
start with. You're looking
Correct,
at, I'm going to be 134 and I'm renewing my
Yes.
lease. Although there are some doctors who say we should live that long,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
Oh,
so
boy.
you can will it to your children, your heirs.
And that's great.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very good. Okay, and then the other, let's see, the basics of getting the right mortgage. We talked about that. The 4 steps to ownership of a community land trust home. The first step, it says, is to attend this seminar.
Yes.
That's a great first step. Okay, what are the other 3?
We have you take another homeowner class. It's actually 8 hours. It's given by other entities. Hale Mahaolu
Oh, okay.
does them. And we also have you come in and we go over all of your documentation to ensure that you income qualify, that you can fit in that bucket for the homeowners that can buy, depending on your family size. And we make sure that it looks like you will be able to qualify. We also have you go to your lender and get pre-qualified prior to that.
Right.
That's part of it.
Right.
Right, and then when we have a house, we let everybody know, and we have open houses so you can see it, and if you are interested, and then you can submit a statement of interest, and then you are one of the potential buyers who has an opportunity to buy the house.
Okay. And then does it come down to, do you end up with a lottery system on it, or is it somebody more qualified than another, or how is the final person chosen?
We actually have a committee that
Okay.
reviews everything, and we go through and look at the different issues or things that are important to us, like, are you a homeowner? Have you owned before? How long have you been working with us on this? All of these things. And then they make a selection. It's blind selection because they don't know who
No
the
names.
buyers. Yeah, no names.
Right.
And then from that selection, we let the first person or family know that we've selected them, and then we have a backup buyer.
Right.
Right. And then they go through the process of obtaining a loan.
Interesting. Very interesting. Do I guess if you get selected, I can't imagine you turning around and saying no after you've gone through the steps of this process. And it sounds like a lot, but it's not. Really.
It's not. And actually, I believe, I wasn't here at the time, but our first home that we sold, the first buyer, for some reason, either didn't qualify, something happened, so we went with another buyer. But generally, in my experience, while I've been here, we've sold 3 or 4 houses now. They're thrilled and they manage. And now
Right.
that we also have the down payment assistance
Right.
grant, that helps also.
Right, because that could have been the stumbling block for a few people.
Yes.
So as you proceed now, you've got these 30-some homes under your belt, so to speak, and you've got the 12 you're going to be doing in Cohomo. Are you still looking for foreclosures and things like that to work on one by one, or is the Cohomo going to take all of your time and effort?
That's a good question. We're always looking at the foreclosures.
Okay.
But as you know, the market has changed and the prices have gone up substantially.
Right.
So we actually have another house that we bid on at foreclosure, and the court confirmed the sale. So now we're waiting for that. So we've got one more house in Wailuku.
Oh, good.
So we're trying to do both.
Right.
But it depends on what the price is and what our funding looks like.
Right. Well, now this whole thing started with, did I see something about a $3 million grant from the HUD back in 2010? Well, that's not when it started, but
No. Yes, and
that was a big,
that was
big
a
help.
big part of it. And we also had great supporters in the community that gave us significant donations. I know that the Board of Realtors, RAM, gave us $15,000.
Oh, that's great.
We had another individual who's since passed away that gave us $50,000. And those were the kinds of donations that we received that really made a difference, helped us actually get to
Right.
today. And speaking of which, we're coming up on our 10th anniversary. That's August 5th.
Uh-huh.
And we are going to ask people to help us as part of that. And a lot of that we're looking at potentially using for our down payment assistance
Okay.
program for our buyers.
Great. That's great. Now, on your website, it said something about you can join the organization as a member. Do you have to be a member to buy a house?
You know, if you are a homeowner, you're automatically a member. You do not have to pay the
Oh, okay.
annual fee, which is only $36.
Gotcha. But if I just want to keep informed on what you're doing, and I could join for $36.
You could, or you don't necessarily. We don't force you to join.
Okay.
What
It's on the
hap-
website. I can
Yeah,
find out
yeah,
anyway.
There you go. And then when you come to our seminars, we talk about all of the things that you can do. Once you're on our list of attendees or people that are going through the 4-step, we keep you informed.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Any last comments you want to make? It's just such a great organization. It's such a great opportunity. I mean, we're kind of competing with you, but we can't compete with you in price because of your land lease.
Yeah, and it's been great and absolutely gratifying. I can't think of a better job to be able to help people, really people that deserve it, young families that otherwise would probably not be able to stay on Maui.
Right.
You know, they can go into their own home at a reasonable price, actually affordable, raise their families there. We've had several homeowners that have actually changed their jobs because now they know what the mortgage is going to be. It's not going to go
right.
up.
The rent's not going to keep
Yeah.
rising. Gotcha.
And they've been able to let go of one job, and now they're in stuff they love to do. So
now they've got
it's
family
great.
time.
Well, I want to touch on that because you have a few homes in my street, actually.
Oh,
And
great.
the when you walk by and see the people that are in these homes, the pride, you know, and the quality time now they have with their kids and all that, it touches just on what you were talking about. It is amazing. And they take care of the property, and, you know, they're proud.
Do their
Yes.
yards look better than yours?
Not than mine.
Not than
I,
yours. Okay.
I have Richard. You
Oh, okay. Right. Richard takes pride in it. Okay.
No, their yards, everything, you know, it really does. And you can see, you know, you've changed the quality of their lives.
Yeah, and the thing is that those homes were abandoned at one time, so they looked horrible. I mean, they had,
Right.
you know, they were overgrown and everything else. We tamed all of that, and now you've got homeowners that have great pride.
Right.
And we had actually a homeowner said that, you know, what you're actually doing is you're changing lives one home at a time.
At a time. That's a wonder, and it's almost your slogan.
It is.
Or it should be.
It's our tagline now.
There you go. Very good. So, Cassandra, you can be reached at 244-6110.
That's correct.
So if anyone out there has questions regarding the Community Land Trust or the homes that they have available or the homes they're going to have available or just want to get on the list to keep informed about what's going on, give Cassandra a call at 244-6110 or email, or go to their website at nahaleomaui.org.
Yes.
Did I say that slow enough so they can spell it out? Okay, great. Thanks, Cassandra.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Aloha.
Thank you. And the voice that you heard here a little bit bragging about the wonderful neighborhood he lives in, because it's got such neat people that are part of the Nahale program, as well as the rest of the community, is Paul Tonneson, who's the executive director of the Friends of the Children's Justice Center. He also happens to be the president of the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association. How's that going?
It's going well. It's it's a busy time, and I was just thinking, listening to Cassandra, it's amazing, the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association, because we do touch a lot of the same families. And I deal with child abuse and neglect. Susie, you deal with this pretty much, but Cassandra's dealing with. But all the different agencies, somehow, some way, I guarantee you, we touch pretty much all the same families on this island. Somehow, some way, which is amazing. And that's, like I said, I wanted to congratulate you, because I do watch the Pride, and I do watch the quality time they're spending with their kids and taking care of the yards every Saturday. So, it's a big thing to watch after watching the house be run down and overgrown, as you said, and no one taking any pride in it. So, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very good. So, and I think that's part of the reason the Nonprofit Directors Association works so well, because we're sharing in this effort. We're not competing in it. We all serve on a little different level. I'm like I said earlier, kind of competing. I can't compete totally. But on the other side, with our affordable rental units that we have for the mentally and physically challenged, that's a whole nother world.
Yep.
And our world is split up into several different pieces, like so many agencies that do multiple programs and projects. And so if if you don't get the chance to, get bogged down in any one, because when there's a problem in one side, somebody else is celebrating. And that's kind of the
That's
neat
what Donald
part of
Trump
it.
said.
Did he?
Yep, when the market was down, it was his
He was
chance
all
to go.
for it.
Because he could buy everything up.
He could go for it.
That's what they're going after.
Oh,
nothing
I
now.
see. Okay.
That was his latest statement.
Oh,
yes.
okay. Gotcha. So now, Friends of the Children's Justice Center, as we know it, maybe just a few words on the Children's Justice Center.
The Children's Justice Center is part of the judiciary. It's pretty much where a child has been assaulted or abused in any way or neglected. The interviewing process happens there. 26 years ago, the Rotarians here on Maui started the Friends of the Children's Justice Center to fill all the gaps for these children after the fact. We do a lot of medical treatments. We do sports. We do clothing is huge. We do a lot with the foster care program. A lot of any type of child who has abuse, neglect, or either emotional, sexual, or physical, and it does tie into you, because the more a family is stressed, the more unfortunately things happen due to those types of stress. And we're part of strengthening families, and you, by taking a $2,000 a month apartment payment or whatever, and putting them into a much more secured environment financially and physically is a big relief in these families, and it will help reduce some child abuse and neglect issues for sure. That's why I was saying we all touch each other in these ways that we don't realize.
Right.
By one person doing one thing, it's going to affect someone somewhere else. So, yeah. So we.
So the children have done nothing wrong.
The children have done nothing wrong.
It's
unfortunately.
parents, relatives, aunts,
Correct.
uncles, friends, whatever,
Right.
who have created this problem for the children.
Yes, and that's a new focus with the Friends. Actually, we're looking at projects, and we've actually been doing it for a couple of years, and it's been quite successful, called Breaking the Cycle, the multi-generational cycles of anger and abuse. We're talking about sharing resources and collaborating, with this K-How that got killed down at Foodland.
Right.
I belong to 100 Men Who Care, which is just a local group of guys. 100 guys get together and make a difference in a charity. We meet quarterly, and it's just sad, but you also have to look and I know this for a fact because I took one of my big donors to drug court graduation because she will give money to the children. She was concerned about the adults, like how could they do this to their children? So when we went to drug court graduation, she was in tears. And what she said about these young ladies that were speaking about what happened to them as children, she was horrified. You know what I mean? That this poor girl grew up this way. No wonder she went to drugs and alcohol or into an abusive relationship or whatever it may be. Once you break someone down, they call it on a horse breaking the spirit, right?
Right.
They have no fight left,
Right.
you know, and that's a sad part of it. Domestic violence definitely affects children. It's a big part of the friends, you know, because they're exposed to it.
Right.
Now, if you're over 14 years old, there's a new law here that if you create domestic violence situations in any child over 14 years old, it's a felony. So, and it looks like Gary's nodding his
Yeah,
head. How much time, Gary?
he-
Or is he
it's-
snoozing?
He's just,
It just went down. It didn't come up.
he's just really on it today. I know. Okay, we'll take a break right here. We'll be right back.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
Come be inspired at the CIM Home Expo at the War Memorial Gym Friday and Saturday, June 10th and 11th. Explore what Maui has to offer with over 50 different contractors, architects, and interior designers. Talk to Maui's leading professionals in the construction industry about your upcoming project. Sign up to win a playhouse. The first 1,000 people will win a tote bag. Friday is open from 4 to 9 p.m., Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, call 633-1686.
And we are back. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes. The second half of the show today, we're talking with Paul Tonneson, who's Executive Director of the Friends of the Children's Justice Center. And just before the break, we were talking about the cycle of abuse and how he'd mentioned that he'd taken one of his donors to drug court graduation. And the stories that you hear at something like that just reiterate and bring home the whole fact of this really isn't this person who's done these things. This person, well, it is this person, but if this person is the is the total sum of the people who raised them,
Correct.
or had
or the
influence on their
environment.
lives.
Yeah, the environment they were exposed to as children.
And so we tend to get mad at somebody because they've done something to their kid, and yet maybe that's not exactly where it belongs. What we should be angry at is this whole system that allows us to continue.
Right, right.
And so what happens? How do we do this? How do we go back and say, okay, I know you're 40 years old and you think this is the way you're supposed to do it, but it's not.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
you know, we talked about this last year, Susie, when Peterson, the football player,
Right.
beat his son with a stick, and he said, I did nothing wrong. My father beat me with a stick, right?
Right.
He had open wounds. The child had to be hospitalized. So if your child has to go to emergency room with open wounds from you beating them,
You've gone too far.
most of society says that's wrong.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not defending him, mentally, he saw nothing wrong with it because that's what happens when you get mad,
Right.
and that's how you react, and the child's going to learn. No, the child's probably going to grow up and do it to his son.
Right.
And that's the multi-generational.
But the interesting thing is, though, that you look at Peterson
Yep.
and you say, in everything else, he appears to be okay.
Yeah.
He's successful.
Yep.
He's healthy. He's, making good money. His family seems to be a nice package.
Right.
But he's got this flaw.
Yeah.
And so until it comes out, and maybe that's the key thing.
Right.
There's no way you can.
What triggers it?
Yeah,
The trigger
You can't
for
go
it.
around judging everybody by
No.
their family.
Right.
But when something happens, you need to know the story
Correct. Right.
so you can address
And that's
it.
that was the whole purpose of bringing this donor to the drug court.
Right.
Okay, because there's perceptions out there of even battered women. Why didn't she leave?
Right.
And all these things.
not that
but
easy.
unless you really know, I guarantee you that woman, something happened along her road to put her into a situation where she has no more self-esteem, no more self-worth, and then let someone really take advantage of that. Because batterers look for victims.
Sure.
Okay, they're victims as soon as they meet them. They need a strong woman is not. Well, I shouldn't say that.
Not as likely.
Not
to
as
be.
likely to get into that
Right.
situation, And so, with what's been going on here on island for the last few weeks, the older gentleman, married X amount of years. I mean, they were an older couple, and then he just up and murders his wife and takes his own life.
Yeah, that's
What was in his head? Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? You have to look at that. And where does all this rage and anger come from?
Right.
Because people say we didn't see that in him.
yeah. They thought they were a happily married couple. They
Right.
didn't even know they'd been divorced.
Some people didn't even know they were separated
Yeah.
or whatever at that point because it hadn't been too long. I think it was December
Yeah.
when it
Yeah.
happened. But so the friends, we got a great board. When I was sitting with one of my board members, Sheila Haynes, the other day, and we were talking about this. We need to get to the kids that are broken before they become broken adults. Because what we do in America is we punish. So you're a juvenile offender, and then you just become an adult offender, right?
Right.
Okay. How do we intervene with this juvenile? Because the child is acting out for a reason. There has to be a reason an 8-year-old child is thrown out of one of the schools on Maui for being drunk. Do you know what I'm saying, though? Think about it, right?
Right.
What's forcing that kid to try to escape reality and have to be under the influence, right? So what do? They'll get expelled, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they get in trouble doing shoplifting or whatever it may be, sometimes it's survival for those kids. So that's been a big focus. And it's actually, we've done, for the last 2 years, pretty much a test run with some high-risk teens. And it's actually been working out really well. We've been able to turn their lives around. We've been able to have them address their anger issues differently or find out why they had anger issues. Some of them come forward and disclose, this is what's going on in my life and this is why I'm angry. And we've been able to change some of their lives.
But now, how does that play back home? I
Well, a lot of
the
times they
parents
have to be
on board.
removed.
Okay.
Some of the children have been removed, and they've become huge success stories for the friends. One of them spoke at our event last year, and everyone, you could hear a pin drop. A very young man that was basically sleeping on the beach, straight F's, thrown out of school, in the court system, a star student at St. Anthony's because he got removed from the environment. Sometimes you can't change the environment, and that's okay.
Right.
So that's why we do focus on the kids. We give them tools to build their own exit ramps, and that's how we actually approach this. We have a black circle, and we ask a group of them to tell us what's in that black circle of dysfunction, and they come up with drugs, everything you can think of,
Right.
domestic violence, blah blah. How do you get out of the circle? How do you make it the last generation that's going to be doing this? And there's a green exit ramp, and it has a gas station, a hotel, and a restaurant, because they need nutrition, they need fuel, and they need rest, right? Mm-hmm. So, and they get it. And it's not directed at them, it's directed as a project, but it makes them start thinking about where they are in life, because obviously they're at high risk,
Right.
because there's been some type of involvement either within the court systems or whatever it may be, that we've been able to have exposure to this population. So
That's one of the questions I was going to ask was how do you find these people? Have they already been into the system?
Maui Nonprofit Directors Association. No, it goes back to partnerships.
Okay.
It goes back to, and that's why I was talking to Cassandra. Little does she know, by their program, I guarantee you they're taking some type of emotional maybe not physical, emotional abuse or neglect off of some stressed parent because they were relieving the stress.
Right.
And a lot of, as we know, we talked about the housing here, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, you see it all the time. And it's like, how do they make it, and how can we expect them to be great parents when they're working 85 hours a week?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're doing it for their kids, so they are great parents, but I'm talking about...
They've
how
got the
can we-
right idea. They just
Right.
have to
But they-
overdo that
It's survival.
at the expense of the
Right.
family.
It's survival to keep a roof over their heads and all that stuff. So,
But now, once they're into the system, and that's when you can start working with them. I mean, you can't. Well, I
No.
guess they don't have to
No,
be,
they
because
don't
you're
have to
talking
be.
about partnerships through the organization.
and we just met with the DOE, and really looking forward to working on some projects with them. We've come up with some great ideas just to implement into the schools. Everything is about exposure. If a child is unaware there's resources, which
Right.
most children are going to be,
Right.
right?
Right.
Or there's, like we said, there is a way to build an exit ramp.
Right.
Unless they're shown that.
So they're showing some tendencies in the classroom, or at least on the school property with other friends and stuff, and the teachers see this. Can they contact you and say,
Well, we don't do programs.
Okay.
So we do projects.
Okay.
So this project is something we would like to implement and maybe collaborate with another agency, which we already are. Hui Malama Learning Center is one of them. And sort of more do a training topic or curriculum they might be able to get into the schools. And it's like last week we had a transgender youth assaulted. No one knew how to service the child because it's something new.
new area?
It's a new area. It's a new population. It's the most heavily discriminated population amongst the LGBTQ community. The friends were made aware of it, and we funded a training for the prosecutors, the police department, child welfare service last Friday, which was huge. We thought we'd get 40 to 50 people. We had to stop it at 67. Don't tell Iris at QLCC that we overloaded a room. But we had like 136 people want to go. So the people are seeing the need because, again, everything's education. Then, I'm not familiar with the population. I learned about it pretty quick, because we got involved with it. But most people don't.
Right.
It's just whatever you see in the news or the headlines or whatever else. But, when a child is a victim of any type of abuse, we're not going to say, oh, we're not going to help that population.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So we had to figure out we need to help this population. We need to build resources like the other populations we have. So and it was actually a huge success. So that's what the friends are always doing. Where can we come out into the community? Where is there a gap? Where can we enhance programs? And that was through the prosecutor's office, J.D. Kim. We collaborated with on that. So how can we enhance some of these programs or these governmental agencies, because we have the finances to do it, to better serve any type of population that
Right.
is with child abuse and neglect. So,
Right. Interesting. So, what started out, you talked about the Rotary starting the
Yep.
Friends.
Yeah.
Basically, it was to give clothing to people who were, the kids were pulled out of the home with no luggage, no suitcase,
Correct.
maybe not even the clothes they had on their back, depending on what the situation was. And so a lot of it was buying clothes or having donated clothes
Mm-hmm. Yep.
given to you so you could hand them out. To going now, you're going a giant step forward to trying to alleviate. I mean, there's only so much you can do with mom and dad.
Right.
But now the kids are showing signs of something's up.
Yep.
And so through these partnerships with other agencies and other government entities, you're trying to work with these children to say, okay, here's the hot button.
Right.
What do you do?
Right. And then it's good, too, because, again, another member of Maui Nonprofit Directors Association. Not that I'm plugging it, but I'm just saying it's important to have collaborations and partnerships like that, because Child Family Service does mental health services for us, and I was able to get a grant and work directly with the therapist for some of these high-risk cases that are coming in, and giving extra focus, because Quest will give you therapy, but X amount, right? But some of these kids need a little more intense. So that's been a great program. And, and another thing is, like tomorrow night we partnered with Women Helping Women. They're going to do a vigil. They're having a forum. They're bringing a bunch of the community resources together at Maui Campus Kalama building. I think it's room 103.
Right.
And it's at 5 o'clock, and they're going to bring in a bunch of the different resources available that are dealing with domestic violence in the community and have a little forum. Then they're going to do a candlelight vigil at 7 o'clock.
And moment of silence for the most recent victims. Now, this is just incredible. You look at this list and you go, this does not go back that far.
No. The 2 children on Big Island and the wife. And again, that was another controlling issue. She barely spoke English. Again, generally people know it's like a pedophile. They know how to what do you call
push
that?
The buttons.
Well, not to push the buttons, to groom and go out and seek what they
Right.
need. And it's sad because, it cost her a life and it cost her 2 children's lives, So
It's true. As time goes by,
I know. Well, I'll give information for
we just
the
get
friends.
started,
I know.
and
Well, this is
time is up. But they can call you.
Yes, they can call me at 986-8634, or my email is paul@Maui, C as in Charlie, J as in John, C as in Charlie, .org. So it's paul@mauicjc.org.
And they could also, for the event tomorrow at 5 p.m. at the college, they could also call it Women Helping Women at 242-6600.
Another member of Maui Nonprofit Directors Association.
Right.
No,
He's shamelessly going.
it's funny because look at it, and I guarantee you, everyone there's so many agencies coming tomorrow night to support this, all different nonprofits to join forces and try to see what we can do as a group to combat, this
Right.
recent rash of domestic violence.
Somebody just said to me the other day, they said, "Do you watch the news when you get home at night?" And I said, "No. I don't want to. I get enough news flashes and things during the day that I don't need to sit and listen to it all over again in more detail."
Yeah, it's depressing.
It's just it is.
It
It
is.
is. I mean, there's and can we stop it? Can we help? Can we do something? And I guess all these different events that are being planned and all the different organizations that are working on it, hopefully there's going to be some sunshine on the other side of this.
It's
thing.
like 100 Men Who Care is a local group that meets quarterly.
Right.
And we won one major impact. And the other night we brought up the thing about domestic violence, and almost unanimously, women, and we're helping women.
Yeah.
We gave right to a cause that happens to be in the forefront.
Right.
So,
Thank you, Paul, for
No
joining us
problem.
today and being on the side of those who need that assistance and breaking the cycle. Yes. Okay, Maui Nonprofit Notes is sponsored as a community service by Pacific Source, the builder's choice. Give Paul and his staff a call at 986-0380 or stop by their showroom in the Waikapu Bay Shard on East Oahe Way, just off Waiko Road. The Maui Nonprofit Directors Association's mission is to provide personal and professional support to nonprofit executive directors, their organizations, and the community of Maui. Today we visited with Nahalio Maui about what they are doing to help with the housing situation, and with Paul Tanis, that was Cassandra, and with Paul from the Friends of the Children's Justice Center to see about breaking the cycle. That's going to become my favorite term, even though it's not a nice term. Well, it is. If we can break
breaking
it.
the cycle of homelessness. It can attach it to anything.
That's true.
It really
That's true.
can.
So we want to thank everybody for tuning in, and don't forget to join us again next week right here, Wednesday at noon on KAOI Radio, when we'll be featuring representatives of 2 other member agencies. And I'm getting signals from Gary. I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director, Lokahi Pacific, and the host for Maui Nonprofit Notes. Thank you for joining us. Have a great week, everyone. Aloha.